This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Kevin Tucker and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic!
What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is May 22nd already. Holy crap. Jonathan Osborne here, as always, joined by my co-host, Kevin Tucker. Kevin, it's literally almost June. This year is flying by. The offseason, I'm sure, is probably going to do the same. Before we know it, we'll be back at Media Day, and then the season will be here. How are you doing, my friend, boy, dude? I don't know what I was going to say there, but how are you?
Yeah, I was fine until you decided to, pick different things to call me. That was weird. No, just kidding. Yeah, good. It's hard to believe. Yeah, May is flying by. We're I guess a month ago, generally a month ago, the playoffs started, I think April 20th that weekend. Yeah, it was Easter weekend. Yeah, so April 19th, 20th. So we're over a month removed from game one and all that stuff. And we're just flying. We're just flying through the summer. But yeah, things are good. Things are good. How about you?
I'm doing well. This last weekend was a little bit crazy. Unfortunately, our family van took a dump on us, which, happens when you have, over 150,000 miles on a vehicle. But I'm the proud owner of a new Hyundai Santa Fe.
New to you.
And I didn't even tell Luke. Maybe he'll just find out this way that I was in Ocala and I wasn't planning on being in Ocala. Both times I've been in Ocala, we're having this might be the first time in the show's history that we've talked about Ocala in 2 straight episodes.
Yeah, with good reason.
But I was in Ocala, didn't necessarily want to be there initially.
Who does?
Because it was unplanned. But what was that?
He said I didn't want to be there initially. Who does? Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Kevin versus the town of Ocala is going to be a legitimate rivalry here.
I'm just going to say, you are going to get it from Luke for being in Ocala and not seeing him. And I'm Team Luke on this one because you've done it the other way around too. Not getting invites to Disney and those kinds of things from Luke. So
the first time I was there, kind of related to this, had another transmission issue with my mother's vehicle, which is also a Hyundai. Which, by the way, they have the best warranty going. If you're going to have problems before 100,000 miles. Hyundai is the car to have, 10-year, 100,000 mile powertrain warranty. But again, I was that was an in and out of Ocala kind of deal. Got off work, drove. It's an hour and 10 minutes out that way. Dropped off my mom's car, picked up her loaner, drove it all the way back. And then this one, it was we decided at, I think 6:45 that we were going to drive over to the Hyundai in Ocala and see about buying a car, and then we didn't leave there until 10:30 at night. So there wasn't, in my defense, Luke, when you're listening to this, there wasn't really a lot of time for me to swing by Luke's house and say what's up.
Well, yeah, I'll let him be the judge of that.
In my defense, these 2 circumstances could not be more different. When you're planning a trip to Disney, this was when I still had passes. You plan on going to Disney at least days, weeks in advance. These are all things that have happened within a singular day. You're trying to make this out to be something that it's not, and you're trying to stir the pot and create drama. You're trying to be an instigator right now.
Hearing a lot of excuses. That's what I'm hearing.
Okay.
So,
all right, whatever. Anyways, if you're here listening just to hear who is getting the Jalen Suggs card, you are in luck. The winner is, we're actually going to announce that at the end of the episode. So if you want to hear that, you'll have to listen to what we're going to talk about. But it's right here. That'll be going out to a lucky listener this week. So appreciate everybody that entered into that. We've seen a ton of ratings and reviews come in across Apple Podcasts and Spotify, which I didn't realize how many ratings we already had on Spotify. So if you're a Spotify listener and you've left a rating, really, really appreciate that. But yeah, that's been awesome. I did mention to Kevin before we started to record that I had a mini rant. I do care what rating you leave. We're not asking for a particular 5-star rating. I know we joked about them being 5 stars in nature on the last episode. And I don't even care if you leave us a 1-star rating as long as it makes sense. Like if your criticisms are valid, I'm all for that. But the problem that I found, and I'm not trying to single anybody out, I'm not going to like name names or anything, but there are a few 1-star reviews that we have on Apple where we were once accused of 50 or like 40 to 50% of our episodes being ads, which is just not accurate, right? Like we have some obligations with the podcast network that we're with to have a few in there. So it's like a minute at the beginning. There's like 2 1-minute chunks in the middle of the episode. And then there's a post roll. Nobody listens to the post roll, first of all, right? Yeah. Maybe we should cut that out.
No, just keep going. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay. Nobody listens to that part. And then we have like a 1-minute jam and a 1-minute Patreon within an episode that's like an hour and 10 minutes. Like nowhere near do we have 30 minutes of ad reads. So that's just ridiculous. And then another one of the 1-star reviews was like, this is actually a really good show, but I'm going to give it a worse rating because of XYZ. Or like, this show actually isn't that bad, but you're giving it a 1-star review. 1-star reviews are reserved for like the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
Like if we're an okay show and you don't want to give us 5, but you want to give us 3, that makes sense. But to say like, oh, this show isn't that bad, and then you give us a 1-star, it's like, bro, what are you doing here? That's my rant over.
Yeah, my feelings aren't quite that strong. The only thing that bothers me is I wish Apple Podcasts had like a expiration date on reviews, because a lot of our 1-star reviews are 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. And like, how hard we've worked on this show over 6 years, like to make it better, we're still trying. We're trying to make it better all the time. So yeah, I'm sure, when I got here 4 years ago, the show, like, it was different than it is now. We weren't doing as good of a job, but with reps you get better. And so I wish some of those
I sucked before you and Luke got here is what I'm hearing.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we all evolve, Jonathan.
No, I'm kidding.
So yeah, that part bothers me, but whatever. I
didn't realize that our show was so polarizing, because like we on Apple, for example, by far and away the most that we have is like 5-star. But if you had to then rank like the star that we have the next most of, it's 1 star. Mm-hmm. So you either love our show or you completely hate it.
Right. Unlike Spotify, which is overwhelmingly good,
right.
So, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's okay though.
It's very interesting. So
I wanted to say, Jonathan, did you have something else on ratings before?
No, I was just going to say we appreciate all the ratings regardless, but like,
of course.
I just ask that they make sense. I don't think that's asking a ton.
Yeah. I was going to say, Jonathan, I personally loved the reactions to the episode we just had with Paul Porter. Like, I loved reading the comments and the tweets and those kinds of things. That was really cool. It was really cool for us, obviously, to get to talk with him and walk down memory lane, but also be able to like pay our respects essentially to like what he was able to do over 36 years and what some of us think he should still be doing. But it was really cool. I'm just kind of glad that episode seemed to go over so well and people enjoying getting to hear from Paul and his stories. And yeah, that was really special, I thought.
Yeah. And, they always say like the saying is like, there's your side, their side, and the truth is always like somewhere in the middle. And not to like discredit anything that Paul said or like to say that he's not telling the truth or anything, but like to allow him to give his side of things. And right. I don't mean to say his side of things and insinuate that that's not the truth, but so many things that people just kind of assumed about the situation, specifically like him talking about showing the Lightning bias over the Magic and stuff like that, giving him the ability to address that stuff.
Yeah.
And we even got like a good amount of feedback on that of like, hey, actually, I did hear that rumor as well. Or actually, I did think that was the case. And for him to be able to set the record straight on that was really cool. Like, we don't really like break news a lot on the show or like have things like that kind of are, kind of newsworthy. Like we've had other quotes and stuff that players have said from time to time, but that feels like one of the more significant things that we've got to kind of introduce to Magic fans. I don't, not doing a good job of explaining that, but I think you all kind of understand what I'm saying there. So yeah, the response to that has been amazing. It was an awesome opportunity. We appreciate Paul. Hopefully it's not the last time. Hopefully we can have him on again another time. He's going to continue to follow the Magic, and having him at a game would be incredible too. So yeah, appreciate everybody that's listened to that. And reception to that's been great.
Yeah. And he did say he'd sit with us at a game. So I'm going to pursue that. Absolutely. To sit next to Paul Porter at a Magic game, that would be like bucket list material. That'd be awesome.
You're sitting there with Paul Porter and somebody travels and he just kind of muttered under his breath, traveling. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
No, what'll happen is he'll travel and I'll say, Paul, say it, Paul.
Yeah,
come on.
He said the thing. He said the
exactly,
thing. Yeah. Never. I was gonna say like something. We get him a megaphone, so he's like, kind of. Yeah. That's not a good idea. That's terrible. I was just clearly a joke. I hope anybody listening to that understands that I'm very much kidding there. Okay, let's jump into, I guess, like the real content of this episode. So as we do every offseason, after the season is concluded, we go through and do player grades. We usually do them by position groups, and then we have a separate episode where we talk about the front office and the coaching staff. So on this episode, we're going to start with forwards. Next episode, which will be Monday, will be the bigs. Next Thursday's episode will be the guards. And then that following Monday's episode will be Jamal Mosley in the front office and kind of the job that they did. So one of the things that I like the most about doing these is when we would do them with Luke, we don't talk about the criteria for our grades before we get into this. But I do think it's important now that we're recording to talk about what our criteria is, because you and I may have the same criteria. We may have different criteria. When we do have different criteria, that kind of leads to different conversations. So I always find that to be interesting. As we go through this, what kind of lens are you looking at giving these player like grades? Are you grading them all on the same scale? Like, what does that look like for you, Kev?
Yeah, I think the primary thing I'll be, I guess the primary lens through which I'll be doing this is what did I expect going into this season, right? Like, what were my expectations, whether it's based on their past or based on their new role or whatever it might be. What were my expectations going into the season, and how did their actual performance match up with my expectations for them this season? And so that's largely how I'm going to do this. There might be a couple exceptions, but that's kind of the general idea that I'm going for.
That's kind of where I am too. And I'm sure our grades will be somewhat in the same neighborhood. Maybe they won't be. Maybe we can, get into it here and things will get a little controversial. Probably not. But I do reserve the right to change my mind. So if we have a grade, we have a conversation, maybe we can not come to a consensus, but if one person changes the other's opinion on something or makes a good point, feel free to bump your grade, kind of one way or the other. So what do you say we just jump right into it here? So we're not going to bury the lead here. We're going to start with Paolo Banchero again. So we're talking about what we expected from Paolo going into this year. So Kev, I want to say I want to give you the honors, but I kind of want to give you the opportunity to throw yourself under the bus before I do. So why don't you go first?
Oh, great. Yeah, great. Appreciate that. It's obviously with the leading storyline of this whole season for the whole team is health, right? And so obviously Paolo plays 6 games, but really gets injured. I think it was 6 or 5, whatever it was in that last game. Yeah, 5 games. Gets injured in that Chicago game, and obviously, the rest is history. And so for that end, he only plays 46 games. That's a bummer. Fortunately, it's not a trend, right? We've never seen that before with him at any point in his career. And so I'm not going to factor that into Paolo's situation. Like, I'm not going to factor the missed games. Maybe that's wrong with me, but 46 games is what it is. What he did when he was on the floor for the 46 games and for the playoffs, just under 26 points a game, man. 25.9 points per game this year. That's crazy. 22 years old doing that. He had 7.5 rebounds, 4.8 assists, almost a steal, just about half a block. Yeah, that's a lot of good. You go to percentages here. That's where things start to change a little bit. 32% from 3, not terrible, but it is down from the year before, right? And then the free throw shooting, 72%, not an improvement at all from the year before. But yeah, all in all, I don't think I can give him an A+, because there are a couple things that, like I said, the free throw shooting in particular didn't improve on. But 26 points per game as a 22-year-old, I think I got to go with an A. Like, maybe that's a little generous. I don't know. It feels right to me. If I had to nitpick a couple things, it's the free throw shooting. 3 turnovers a game with how much the ball was in his hands this year. I can't really get mad at that. Like, yeah, he had some high turnover games, had a stretch with a lot of high turnover games in a row. Same as Franz, which we'll talk about in a second. But 3 turnovers a game, I'm not getting mad at that. So, but all in all, I'm going to say an A. How does that rating sit with you?
So what's funny is I actually thought about the injury a little bit differently, because like coming back from the injury, he just really didn't look all that great, and I really did account for that, right? Like, I do think maybe not so much with the forward group. I actually know, like, Jonathan Isaac being a forward, and maybe we should have said like who we're considering forwards. So
yeah.
Paolo, Franz, J.I., Tristan, Caleb, Jet. Those are who we're considering forwards. So part of my evaluation of J.I. was the health, right? Like, it's kind of, I don't think it's right to have the conversation around J.I. and not to talk about the health at all. So I tried to apply that to everyone. So the health did play a part in my thinking. At the end of the day, I still came to the same grade that you did with an A, because what he did when he was healthy, to be completely transparent, was so far and above how, like, I thought he was going to be better this year. I didn't expect him to take like the all NBA type of leap that we saw this year. So yes, you already kind of laid out the numbers of like the 46 games in the regular season. He had the fantastic first 5 games and then, misses 2.5 months, 3 months, somewhere around there, and then comes back. We all know was a little bit rusty. I just want to jump to the post All-Star break. So 24 games after the All-Star break, the Magic were 13 and 11. He averaged 29 points, 7.8 rebounds, 4.5 assists, and almost a stock and a half per game on 2.8 turnovers. He shot 47% from the floor, 33% from the three-point line, and 78% from the free throw line. And then when we jump over to the playoffs for Paolo, in 5 games, this dude 29.4 points per game, 8.4 rebounds, 4.2 assists, just under a stock and a half per game, shot 43% from the floor, 44% from behind the arc. The free throw shooting was horrid, 65% in the playoffs from the charity stripe there. But given the fact that the playoffs, every single possession was Paolo or Franz do something, or you have nothing at all, just incredibly impressive. So even considering the health, just being able to see like what level he was at when he was healthy and when he was whole, we're talking about a guy who is a top 12 to 15 guy in the entire league, in my opinion. Definitely in the conversation for all NBA, depending on what the Magic are able to do and the level of team success that they can have next year. Could potentially be in the MVP conversation, definitely going to be an all-star next year. So even considering the injury, just how good he looked when he was 100% exceeded really what I expected going into this year. If it had not been for the health and we saw this all season long, it would have been an A+, but I did have to give him a little bit of a knock there just because of the availability.
Yeah, I was about to mention the playoff numbers, like the playoff performance. I mean, we talked about it obviously, but like, you're playing against the Boston defense, very good defense. You're getting zero help. Obviously, like you said, it was either Franz or Paolo, Franz. Outside of that, just zero help. Same thing we saw from stretches of the 2024 playoffs, right? At Game 7 in particular. But yeah, his shooting numbers, I mean, again, 44% from 3 in the playoffs. That's just insane. He was so good, 29 points against that defense. Yeah, he was just so impressive. So yeah, obviously, you wonder what could have been without the injury, but from what we got from Paolo as far as availability, there's not a whole lot you can complain about for him this season.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page there. Both A's, I think. I don't think you gave him an A+ there. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to Franz. So I made you go first last, so I'll go first here now with Franz.
Yep.
So looking at Franz's numbers here, and I have them. Where did my Excel sheet go here? So Franz played in 60 games this year. He played 33.7 minutes per game, and he averaged 24.2 points per game, 5.7 rebounds, 4.7 assists. He averaged just under 2 stocks per game. He shot 46% from the floor, almost got to 30% from 3 on the season, but still finished under, and shot 87% at the free throw line, while also having one of, if not the toughest assignment on defense night in and night out. And then in the playoffs in 5 games for Franz, 25.8 points per game, 4.8 rebounds, 5.6 assists, just over a stock and a half there, shot 44% from the floor, a horrid 18% from the 3-point line while shooting almost 77% from the charity stripe in the playoffs. So the shooting is really the biggest sort of drawdown for Franz this season, as well as the health. Considering all of that, the absolute leap that Franz took, not only, while Paolo was out, but when Paolo came back, and Franz was looking a little bit fresher off that injury initially, then struggled a little bit, finished the season strong, and then when it came to the playoffs, again, it was only Paolo or Franz every single possession, while guarding Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown for the majority of those games. So for me, I gave Franz an A+. It's a little bit hypocritical because of the health. Was a little bit healthier than Paolo, played, what was that, 14 more games than he did, I believe it was, in the regular season. But Franz just took such a large leap to that level, was legitimately in, November, was legitimately like in all NBA MVP conversations during that stretch because he was playing so well. The Magic were playing so well. Square, third, fourth in the East during that time. Franz was just legitimately so good during that stretch. I'm going to pull up his November numbers in just a moment here. Franz, 25.4 points, 5.9 rebounds, 6.5 assists, 2.3 turnovers, 2 steals per game on 46% from the floor, 34% from behind the arc, and 84% at the free throw line, while the Magic went 11-5 in 16 games in November. Like, Franz was at just a all NBA, MVP, All-Star, whatever award you want to throw at him at that point, was that good during that stretch. And the fact that we got to see him at that level was something that I didn't have even at my loftiest expectations for Franz. Like, that was such a pleasant surprise. Paolo goes out and we're like, what are we going to do? Like, hey, Franz, you're getting paid like a max player. You got the max contract. It's time to play like a max player. Was I super confident that he was going to get there? No. I think he got to that point and even exceeded that. So because of him just exceeding his performance expectations in my eyes, I gave him an A+.
Yeah, I mean, what a leap. You talked about it, but again, that stretch where Paolo was out and we thought, man, the season's done, right? Like, this season is over. And in some ways, the idea of what the season could have been was over, but Franz is the one who kept it alive, like quite literally putting the team on his back during that stretch against a lot of very difficult teams, I might add. That was so impressive, so fun. We talked a little bit about his defense, but like, his defense he's just getting better. Like, that's the other part about his game. Like, obviously coming into the season, great defender, but this year seeing him again on some of the best players in the league for most of the year he was great. He was great. I can't, as great as he was, I can't turn a blind eye to the shooting. I just can't. Like, he had the down year last year. The season before he shot 36%, and we're thinking, that's just part of his rise to being a quite good 3-point shooter. Then 23-24 happens, which he shot 28%, and we're like, oh man, what a terrible year. It's an anomaly. He's going to bounce back, and he bounced back to 29%. That was disappointing. On the other hand, I was like, man, if he can just knock some shots down in the playoffs, I'll forget about the regular season. And it was worse. Like you said, 18, 19%, whatever it was in the playoffs from 3. That's my limitation from an A+. As great as he was, and again, compared to what I expected for the season, great. But part of my expectations for this season was an improvement in 3-point shooting. And so because that didn't happen, it's an A for me. It doesn't mean I'm team trade Franz. It doesn't mean any of that. Like, not even close to that. I still believe somehow, some way that 3-point shooting is going to bounce back. You don't go a lifelong 3-point, like decent 3-point shooter, and then just it goes away forever. Like, we've never seen that. Well, barring injuries, I don't think we've ever really seen it. So it'll bounce back at some point, but because it didn't happen this season, I'm going to, same as Paolo, just going to go with an A.
That's totally fair. And like I said, I reserve the right to change my mind, and change my mind you have. So I probably will knock Franz down to an A.
Right.
Again, totally exceeded all my expectations. And again, if I say Franz is an A plus and Paolo's an A, like, that doesn't mean I think that Franz had a better year than Paolo.
Right.
Like, we're talking about what we thought we were getting from these guys. So we're kind of like grading them against like our preseason expectations here.
Yeah.
So yeah, the shooting was a massive issue. The one kind of positive that I have is the fact that he did shoot 87% from the free throw line.
Right.
And I just have to believe that that's going to translate at some point. He has so much touch everywhere else on the floor, whether it's at the free throw line, showed, that he's adding a little bit in the mid range, and obviously all the crazy like layups and stuff that you just can't make and can't finish without that level of touch. He's added, the runner and like kind of like the running hook shot, like all that kind of stuff that he does. I just feel that has to translate to good shooting at some point. So yeah, you made a perfectly good and fair argument. In my initial evaluation, I probably didn't take a look enough at the shooting and kind of, yeah, you know what? We actually did expect that to bounce back, and it didn't really bounce back. Like, it kind of was like, hey, I'm kind of still alive. Like, it's a little bit better, but it's still nowhere near where we expected it to be or where we want it to be.
Yeah. And again, sorry, I was just going to say, and again, I was very much like, hey, if you figure this out in time for the playoffs, like, everything's forgiven.
All's forgiven.
And the fact that it was 10 points worse, 10% worse is just, it's not a good look. And so, that's why.
Really tough.
The Six Man Show is brought to you by Jam Hot Chicken. Jam Hot Chicken is bringing jams, culture, and hot chicken to the heart of Winter Park. You can check them out at 400 West New England Avenue, Suite 13 in Hannibal Square, again in beautiful Winter Park. Before you go, though, you can see them at Jam Hot Chicken on all social media, or check out their website, which is jamhotchickenfl.com, where you can access the menu, order online, and see all things Jam Hot. We're big fans of Jam Hot Chicken because they're big fans of the Orlando Magic and of this fan community. And so if you're looking to support a local business that are also diehard Magic fans, what better place than to go to Jam Hot Chicken? Whether you like super spicy food or plain mild food, they've got it all, and it's all really good. So definitely check them out in Winter Park. And when you do, let them know that the Six Man Show sent you.
I'm telling you, Kevin, obviously it's easy to go there when we're in town at various points throughout the season.
Yep.
But I am dying for some Jam Hot Chicken. So I might just have to make the drive over to Orlando just to get some Jam Hot Chicken sometime soon. But this episode is also brought to you by Dead Air, Daniel Flores, Kason Green, Goody 93, and Mackle Canny. These are some of our Hall of Fame and Elite tier patrons. They all went over to patreon.com/the Six Man Show, where for as little as $2 a month, you don't have to subscribe to the Elite tier or the Hall of Fame tier, because every dollar goes a long way, helps us grow this Orlando Magic fan community. There's some awesome stuff that we have planned this season and this summer to try to get this network of Magic fans across the globe just a little bit closer. So you can maybe brainstorm on what you think that means, but we're excited to roll that out. And everything that we do, none of it would be possible without the support of our patrons. And you get awesome benefits, like our monthly Zoom calls that we have with our Hall of Fame and Elite tier patrons, or the Discord community that we have with over 80 Magic fans on there talking all things Magic basketball. This time of year, there's a lot of playoff basketball talk or the draft. We even have a channel on there where you can talk about anything but the Magic. So if you want to talk video games, pop culture, food, whatever, you have a place to do that. And again, if you just like what we do, just want to throw us a few bucks a month, help support us, help kind of keep the lights on, you can join the $2 tier. Again, every bit helps. Whenever we have brand new patrons, we give them a special shout out as well. So if you like what we do, you want to help continue to grow this Orlando Magic fan community, join in on the fun, head on over to patreon.com/sixmanshow, or the 6-man show rather, and pick the tier that works best for you. We appreciate it all, appreciate the love. And now let's go ahead and get back to the episode. Okay. I think this next one has the potential to be the most interesting and potentially the most different for us. Jonathan Isaac, and I have no issues with letting you go first here.
Yeah, yeah. I'll be the lucky one to do that. So JI this season, you got to start with the good. Played 71 games. That is not something to be ignored. I mean, looking back before, it was 58, 11, 0, 0, 34. His second season in the league, 2018, 2019, played 75 games. And his rookie season, 27. So this is the second most games he's ever played in the league by a lot. You know, the third place season was last year at 58. So that's amazing, right? Amazing for him to be healthy. Amazing that our training staff was able to keep him healthy. All those things. That's great. That might be where the positives for me might end, honestly, compared to what I expected for the season. Ends up playing 15 minutes a game. I love him playing 71 games, but man, we need more than 15 minutes. If it's 23, 24 Isaac or earlier, right? We need more than 15 minutes. So that's a downer for me. Offensively, didn't give you hardly anything. I know he averaged 5.4 points, but that number seems high to me. Just thinking about over the season, like I felt like there were a lot of games that were even less than that. You know, shot the ball 25% from three. Guy that used to be pretty good, especially in those corners. You know, last season 37% from three. The season before that 40% from three on much smaller sample size in that season. But we'll use last season 37.5%. Right, to drop 25. That's a bit of an L. And then defensively, he wasn't Jonathan Isaac, right? Like he wasn't bad, and obviously all the analytics point to great defender, all those kinds of things. But he wasn't the same, right? And he talked about it. We talked about it all season. He talked about it at the end of the season, you know, the whole putting on weight and how that experiment just didn't work. And so obviously, hopefully going into the next season, that weight can be lost and he can return to the Jonathan Isaac we know and love, plus play 71 games, plus play more minutes because he's healthy and more fit and those kinds of things. But none of that happened this year. And so I'm stalling at this point while I decide what grade I want to give him because this is tough. I feel like I just got to go with a D, honestly. Like, that might be harsh. I'm going to go with a D. It wasn't the same. It just wasn't the same Jonathan Isaac. And 71 games is amazing, but what we saw just wasn't him.
Yeah, I so agree with pretty much everything that you just said. I do think regardless of whose idea it was, and it does seem like it was kind of like a collaborative thing. I think JI probably was just kind of being like the good soldier, like, hey, if this is what the team wants me to do, this is what the team needs me to do. If this is going to be the best thing for the team, then I'm along for the ride, right? Everybody underestimated how much of an impact adding that weight was going to have on JI. That being said, I just can't look past the fact that he played 71 games. Now, the thing about him playing that many games, or he played 1,090 minutes this season. The year 2019-2020, where he has I think it was like the PCL injury New Year's Day in Washington, then comes back in the bubble. He played 34 games. Do you want to guess how many minutes he played? Unless you have it in front of you. Don't look it up.
I don't have the total, but I see the minutes per game, and so I can do a little bit of math, and 900
so
something.
He only played 110 more minutes this season, appearing in 47 more games.
Right.
Like, that is a big problem. And kind of putting two and two together, it seems like that was directly correlated to him putting on the weight and just never being able to get the conditioning where it needed to be. Right? Like he said last year, I think he went into the season weighing 230. He ended this season after getting all the way up to 250 or whatever it was. He got all the way back down to 235, which is normal for guys to bulk up, in the offseason and cut, obviously the amount of games that they're playing and the travel and everything like that. It's normal to cut weight down, but he still finished the season in like his best possible shape of this frame, heavier than he usually starts another season at. So, but again, him playing in 71 games, I know we talked about it all year long. The eye test didn't really tell you that he was still one of the most impactful defenders in the league, but all of those kind of defensive impact metrics still showed that he was at 70-75% of the JI that we are accustomed to. The biggest problem for me is one, the minutes, and then behind that was just an absolute non-factor offensively. And I know we can say, oh, well, the whole team was. Well, outside of Franz and Paolo, kind of everybody was a disappointment offensively, right? So that's going to go into these grades. But I wasn't going to give JI anything crazy, but I ended up giving him a C. Like, I don't think you and I are that far apart. I just couldn't look past the fact that, like, sure, it was 15 minutes a night, but the fact that he was able to play 71 games, still playing 15 minutes a night, I think we had the expectation this year that he was going to be able to come in and just play more than he did last season. Last season, he plays in, 58 games, played 15.8 minutes. This year, he played 71 games, 15.4 minutes.
Yep.
That's essentially the same amount of minutes, but he was able to play in 13 more games this year and not really being on like the limiting the back-to-backs or the 3 games in 4 nights, all that kind of stuff. Was able to play in almost every game this year. The only person that I think played more games for the Magic this year, I believe, was I think it was Tristan and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, if I'm not mistaken. So for JI to be in your top 3 or 4, in terms of like games played, for me, that exceeded our expectations. So I ended up at a C for JI.
Yeah, the only other thing I'll add, in a season where the team is healthy, I think we can maybe look past the 15 minutes, maybe a little bit more. But in the season where you lose Mo Wagner, and obviously they're not the same player. I'm not saying he should have just replaced Mo Wagner and what he offers, but minutes wise, I thought that he ideally would fill more of those minutes that we lost from Mo, and it just wasn't possible, right? Like it's not just the problem is also twofold, right? Like sometimes he's out there playing and he's gassed and he's played all he can play. Sometimes he just was taken off the court because he wasn't contributing, right? Like that's also the other part of the 15 minutes. And so, yeah, just not the season I think anyone wanted for him. Even him, on the exit interviews was saying like he just had a bad year. Like he openly said he was not happy with how things went this year. And so that's kind of encouraging to hear, honestly, to hear a player admit like, yeah, it's not like Magic fans are crazy. Like I hated it too. But yeah, hopefully it opens the door for some improvement this year. Hard to believe he's going to be 28 during the season next year.
Yeah.
We're getting old. Jonathan Isaac's nearing 30. It's crazy.
Usually you would think that C means that you met expectations, but for me, he met expectation or exceeded expectations in some areas and like didn't meet expectations in others. So just kind of weighing all that together, kind of at a C here. So next up for us is going to be Tristan da Silva, the rookie. And in Tristan's rookie year, he appeared in 74 games. He started 38 of those. He played 22 minutes a game, and he finished the season at 7.2 points per game, 3.3 rebounds, an assist and a half a game, almost just over a half stock per game. Shot 41% from the floor, 33% from behind the arc, 87% at the free throw line. And then in the playoffs, obviously, we didn't see quite as much. Tristan da Silva played in 2 games, 2.5 minutes per game. Didn't score, averaged half an assist, averaged 2 rebounds and a turnover. And yeah, just not great. Didn't play a ton in the playoffs. And we saw him have sort of, a place in the rotation early in the year, and then guys start to go out, then all of a sudden he's in the starting lineup, and then guys start to come back, and then he's kind of out of the lineup, like in and out of the lineup, and then more guys get hurt, and he's still kind of in and out of the lineup. So it was really an interesting up and down year for Tristan. I will say there are things that he did that really exceeded my expectations in terms of like, the defense being really solid, the rebounding being, kind of serviceable for his experience and kind of the slender frame. Obviously, we know he's going to put on muscle over the course of the next few years. And then like the passing, being able to do stuff off the dribble. And then he wasn't quite as good in other areas. The shooting, one of those. But it's rookie year. I'm not really looking too much into that. But he did step up and have some really big games, like had the game winner against Boston. For the most part, when he was in the starting lineup, was really reliable, really, really good. You kind of knew exactly what you were getting from him on a night in and night out basis. Had some big games, but then just had this weird kind of second half of the season where he was just in and out of the lineup. And then when he would play, wasn't really all that good or really overly impactful. But I think really, at least I had the expectation going into the season that he just may not really play a ton. Like, was it going to be him or was it going to be Jet in the starting lineup? Was Tristan going to spend any time, in Osceola, with the G League team, all of that? So, when I thought about that and not really knowing what my expectations were for him to have a spot in the lineup, I certainly didn't expect him to start, 30 plus games his rookie year. So, I ended up at a B for Tristan. What about you?
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with Tristan this year. Before I, talk about my thoughts and my grade, hearing you talk through Tristan's season, just it's deja vu. It's Anthony Black's rookie season all over again, right? If you think about, they both, not necessarily in the rotation at the beginning, injuries happen, they're forced to start, forced to contribute. They give their best during that stretch, which ironically was in the kind of the same time of the year. They give their best. They are very serviceable. They contribute to winning basketball. Then as guys come back, they just fall out of the rotation for one reason or another. Maybe it's just a Mosley thing. It's going to give more minutes to veterans or whatever it is. And it's the same thing that happened with Tristan, right? Back-to-back seasons, we've seen that with Anthony Black and with Tristan. So for me, first off, like you said, 74 games, very impressive. That's great. 7 points, 3 boards. The field goal percentage is, not great. 3-point percentage was okay, but again, like you said, he's a rookie. I was just super happy with it. Like I'm very, very pro Tristan da Silva. I feel like he can absolutely be a part of the core of this team moving forward. Again, not like the cornerstones, right? But teams that have cornerstones need other bricks around them, right? And bricks is a terrible term to use for this Magic team.
I mean, no, it's actually the perfect term.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is. But you know what I'm saying? With going with that analogy, and I think Tristan, at least through 1 year, he sold me. So when it comes to expectations, what I expected from him this season, we knew he had a very high floor, but potentially low ceiling compared to a lot of other guys that were drafted. And he proved that. He proved that for me. And honestly exceeded it. I wish he got more minutes later in the season. Like, to me, that was a mistake by the coaching staff to give minutes to guys that are older and suck at least that much, if not more, than what Tristan was doing offensively, right? And so to not give those minutes to Tristan, it was a bit of an L. So for me, I'm going to go a little higher. I'm going to go A-. Like, I was very happy with Tristan. Okay. And he definitely sold me as a part of this team going forward.
Yeah, I definitely don't hate that grade, but your kind of the last few sentences just reminded me of how much fun it's going to be to do these guard grades when we get to those in a couple episodes.
Oh, so
some of those are going to be pretty tough.
Yeah, if I called Tristan a brick in the the foundation of the building, holy smokes!
We got over there, brick walls and yellow brick roads and all kind of stuff being built over there with the guards.
Tune into that episode, folks, next Monday.
Oh, that's going to be a ton of fun.
All right, sorry, Thursday. That's Thursday's episode. Excuse me. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. Is it? Yeah.
Yeah. Monday we're doing the bigs. Thursday we'll do the guards. Yeah.
Sure. Perfect. Okay. Next up, Caleb Houston. So in his third year, Caleb Houston played in 58 games, started 6, played 13.6 minutes per game, averaged 4.1 points per game. Let's see. Also added 1.3 rebounds, just over a half assist, just under a half steal. he shot 42% from the floor and shot, I believe, a team high 40% from behind the arc, 88% from the free throw line. And then in the playoffs, Caleb played 5 games, 9 minutes per game, 1.2 points per game. Everything else pretty pedestrian. 20% from behind the arc, 14% from the floor. Just like everybody else not named Paolo and Franz had a pretty poor showing in the playoffs. But for me, compared to what we expected from Caleb going into this year, I wasn't sure that he was going to be in the rotation at all. I thought you have younger players who you have, or I guess Tristan is older than Caleb, but I guess less experienced, guys who you have more recent, higher level draft capital invested into in terms of Tristan da Silva and Jet Howard. I just didn't really see Caleb's place in the lineup. And kind of the knock on Caleb Houston coming into this season and really the last couple of seasons has been, hey, we drafted this guy to be a 3-point shooter, and he just quite honestly was not a 3-point shooter. Like going back to his first couple of years in the league, 33.8, 37.3, and then this year up to 40%. And really like that, I don't know, like the third quarter of the season where Caleb, started to get hot and really got hot in a lot of those games and was able to boost up those percentages. Like taking a look at the game log here and going a little bit like deeper into the season, like 4 of 6 from behind the arc, 6 of 7 from behind the arc, 4 of 8 from behind the arc. Like those games kind of elevated his shooting percentages for the year because, he only takes 160 for the entire season. So average 2 a game, but 64 of 160, good for 40%. Because like I just really didn't expect much out of Caleb, and then him being in the lineup, if you would have told me that he had what I have expected to give kind of like the shooting boost that he did towards the end of the season, wouldn't really have expected that either. But because he was impactful in spots, but over the course of the season still really left a lot to be desired. I mean, he's fine, fine defensively, but if we are going to play him, some of the games we did a really good job of finding him a lot of opportunities. But just like too many games where he's out there for 14 minutes and, has like 1 attempt and stuff like that. So for me, when it comes to Caleb, I ended up at a B.
Yeah, I think that's fair. For me, it's a tale of 2 seasons for Caleb, and you kind of talked about it, but pre-All-Star break, shot 31% from 3. Post-All-Star break, 50% from 3, right? Yeah. Like, tale of 2 halves for him. What you talk about, didn't expect him to be in the rotation. He wasn't in the rotation to start the season either. It was when the injuries started happening, got more minutes, and then kept those minutes as the season went along. I have a weird stat for you about Caleb Houston, one that I didn't know until I pulled this up while you were talking. Okay. Caleb Houston shot the ball obviously well this season, 40% for the whole season. Shot the ball really well Sundays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays. Talking about days of the week. Shot above league average every day of the week. Except on games that were on Monday, shot 14% from 3. Is that anything? I don't know. But that is the weirdest. The gap is literally 30% between Monday and the next closest day, which looks like Wednesday at 36%. He's 32% worse on Mondays.
What I'm most interested in is hearing how you found that.
It's on Basketball Reference. If you go to the splits, you scroll down, it has day of the week.
They really have splits by the days of the week.
Right. Which again, I stumbled upon it as I was looking. Yeah. So that's kind of weird.
Hundreds of hours in Basketball Reference and had no idea that they had a split for days of the week.
Yep. I just
thought
that
dude in October shot. I mean, he only shot 3 threes, 66%.
Right. He wasn't
in
playing.
March. This dude shot 54%.
Yep.
27 of 48.
Yeah. Very impressive. March was that Minnesota game. Remember that? He was 6 of 8 that game.
Yeah.
March was also his other 6 of 8 game, I think, if I remember correctly. But anyway, sorry to go off on the days of the week thing. I just thought
that's awesome. I'm
the weirdest
I'm so
thing.
Thrilled that I have this knowledge now.
Yeah,
you can do that.
this very useless stat. But no, Caleb, I mean, we talked about last offseason that this is probably his last hurrah. Like this past season was his last chance to prove that he belongs as part of this core moving forward. Last chance. I mean, honestly, we weren't sure if this might be his last chance to prove he belongs in the NBA at all, and so it wasn't perfect, right? Again, the first pre-All-Star, he was not shooting the ball well, and it looked grim for our Caleb, but he was able to bounce back the last third of the season and give him credit for that. And so, yeah, I mean, I feel like based on expectations, maybe it was a little better than my expectations. I'll give him a C+. Again, the back third, very impressive. I can't discredit the first 2/3 though. Like they weren't good. It was pretty bad. But yeah, he bounced back in a nice way, so I'll give him a C+.
All right. Yeah, I don't hate that. I guess what conclusion have you come to in terms of like?
Man.
I do think. I mean, 40% over the course of a season, even if it's on low volume. I mean, the first 2 seasons were on low volume, and we came to the conclusion like, hey, this guy's not a 3-point shooter right now. So if you can get to that conclusion on low volume, like him looking so much better this year on, I mean, honestly, it's even a little bit less volume than last year if you're looking at like the per game stuff. But he was gone for so much longer last year, like in Osceola, all that kind of stuff. Like if we're actually taking a look. And I guess he ended up playing the same amount of minutes, the same amount of games as last year. He just had half an attempt more last year. I don't really know that that's really going to skew it one way or the other. I am more confident in him being like a shooter off the bench at this point. Like, am I saying he's a guy that is like in the rotation day one next year? No. But is he a good depth piece, a really cheap depth piece to have at this point, like making $2 million a year? Probably be able to re-sign him for not all that much more than that, like maybe $4 or $5 million a year. If you can have a guy like that on the end of your bench, a guy who is a good culture guy, is a hard worker, has been in the system, like I'm 100% fine with like if they come to like some type of extension with Caleb Houston this season. I definitely think if he's not here, I do still think he finds an NBA roster. Yeah. Now, if I'm his agent, I'm pushing him like to the depths of Hades. I'm sending him to Charlotte or Washington or somewhere where I know the team's going to be bad. This guy's going to get an opportunity to play a little bit and at least show that, hey, like I do this thing really well and I can stick in the league because of that. I also wouldn't be surprised if like 3 years he's out of the league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you asked my verdict on him. The point you mentioned, he's going to make $2 million next year, assuming the team, exercises that club option, which they're going to, by the way. Like, you can't get a lot of NBA players for $2 million these days, So I think he's going to be around, and I'm okay with that. Yeah, he might be at the end of the bench next season, depending on what moves happen. It also is unlikely that if the Magic were to make a trade that a lot of people want them to make, it's unlikely that Caleb Houston's in that trade for 2 reasons. One, may not necessarily be a guy that a lot of teams are clamoring for, right? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are teams that see something in him and they're like, yeah, we want a shooter and we think he'll be that. But again, the other part of it is it's $2 million. It's not swinging the pendulum at all when it comes to, or hardly at all, I should say, when it comes to making salaries match up. So yeah, I'm totally down for him coming back one more season. Definitely, again, the team's going to exercise that option for $2.1 million next year. Yeah, I think he'll be back.
Okay, now let's just get to Jet.
Jet, yep.
Let's give our grades on 3.
Oh gosh, I haven't. Okay,
you really haven't thought about it.
No,
okay.
This one I was just gonna talk myself into a grade, whatever it was. I'm
gonna give you I'm gonna count down from 5, and then you have to commit to something. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. D.
C-.
Oh, a C-. See, look, but this is the thing. you kind of got what you expected out of Jet this year.
Yes. Yeah.
I did not.
Right.
I thought that there was a legitimate chance that Jet would end up in the lineup at some point this year.
Yeah.
He was given opportunity, right? Like maybe it's not as opportunity as he needs right now, but he was given an opportunity. He played 60 games this year, played 11.7 minutes per game. So compared to last year when he played 18 games and 3.7 minutes.
All garbage time, by the way.
All garbage time last year. He did get like significant non-garbage regular season minutes this year at certain points. Okay. He finished with 4.5 points per game, 1.2 rebounds, less than an assist a game. On 4.4 field goal attempts, shot 37.4% from the floor. And on 3.1 3-point attempts, shot 29.6% from behind the arc and under 70%. I mean, he shot less than a half a free throw a game. So this guy is getting to the line once every other game to shoot 2 free throws, even a little bit less than that on average. And yeah, was given opportunity and did show offensive flashes. I do still think he can shoot the basketball. For whatever reason, has not been able to do that and showcase that in games on a regular basis. I do think the offensive feel is a little bit underrated in terms of like the passing and some of the vision that he has there. But right now, that is really where the positives with Jet Howard end. Is still a complete liability defensively, which is frustrating for me because when he is engaged and locked in and is giving max effort on that end, he has shown that he can stay in front of guys. Maybe not like the best guys in the league, but like your bench guy, your 6-man. He has, I can probably remember like a handful of possessions this year where I came away from that saying like, Jet, if you could just do that every possession, you would be on the floor consistently, but it's still too much of not giving a ton of effort on that end or just having like mental lapses where you're guarding a guy in the corner, you fall asleep and now he's cutting behind you for a wide open layup. It's stuff like that. So again, me having the expectation that Jet might crack the rotation and, shows to be a little bit more serviceable on that end. He did not meet my expectations, but it wasn't so far off of, like, I wasn't expecting him to come in and have like the year that Anthony Black had, for example. So I don't think it's fair to give him an F. So I ended up at a D.
Yeah, sorry, the Pacers just tied this game up and it's going to overtime. Anyway, yeah, so I'm glad you made that point. Like, I had lower expectations for Jet going into this season, right? Like, than you did. I had very low expectations. And so, yeah, you're right. That's why I gave him a C-, which ironically means he actually went under my expectations because I consider C being, met my expectations. So he did not meet my low expectations. Yeah, I don't see it, Sue me. I don't know. Like, I just don't see it. I want to see it. I think part of the pain of that, and this is, I always hate conversations like this, what I'm about to say. I actually hate saying it because I don't think it's always fair, but it adds to the frustration when you think about the other guys that were available when Jet Howard was picked and the reasons why Jet Howard was picked, the skill set that was sold to the Magic and to Magic fans. And then you see other guys that were drafted after him with the same skill set, but doing it way better. That part I think adds to the frustration, which is not Jet's fault. It also goes to the front office. And so, yeah, I mean, he didn't meet my expectations. I thought he had tons of opportunities this year. I've seen so many people on social media or in our YouTube comments saying he needs more opportunity. Got tons of opportunity. You can't just hand a guy 30 minutes a game in important games and say, there's your opportunity. No, you got to earn it just like everybody else. And he got double-digit minutes per game in 60 games. I know a lot of it, not a lot, but a good chunk of that was garbage time, again, just like last season. But that's not nothing. 11 minutes a game is not nothing. Had lots of opportunities, and to me, missed the mark on just about everything. Like, again, he did show some signs of playmaking that I hadn't seen before. I'll give him credit for that. The shooting wasn't there. The defense certainly wasn't there. The finishing at the rim, or basically anything other than taking threes, wasn't there either. And so, yeah, for me, didn't meet the mark. And so, yeah, for me, it was a C minus based on my expectations for the year.
Yeah, I don't think the draft conversation really belongs in the conversation that we're having around their grades and the expectations. No, I'm not saying that to knock you, but I do think it's interesting to go back and revisit that. So the Magic take Jett Howard obviously at 11. At 12, the Thunder take Derek Lively. He's traded to the Mavs. 13 was Grady Dick. 14 was Jordan Hawkins. And I do think the jury is kind of still out on Keontae George, but obviously that's an interesting name there. Jaime Jaquez to the Heat at 18. Brandon Podziemski to the Warriors at 19. Jury very still out on Cam Whitmore at 20. He slid for a reason, obviously. Dariq Whitehead, 22. Then we have, Nick Smith Jr., Bryce Sensabaugh, those guys 27, 28. But Julian Strawther, who's playing in the Eastern Conference Finals right now and is like a main contributor to that team, him at 29. And then when you get like later into the second round, you have guys like Toumani Camara. Like, everybody misses on those kind of guys, like the second round guys that pop. But just when you look at the fact that it was such a reach, and the interesting for me is it was such a reach, but the Magic have never really, if you're reaching on a guy like that, you have to be committed to giving him an opportunity. Like, everything else kind of be darned, like the state of the team, all that kind of stuff. Like, if you're making a swing at 11, you kind of still have to be underneath the operation of, hey, we're just going to give this kid minutes and whatever happens, like, for better or worse. And the Magic admittedly pivoted away from that immediately after that. Like, went into last season saying, like, rookies aren't just going to get minutes anymore because they're rookies. Well, Jett Howard is kind of the rookie that you have to be able to do that to, because at this point, I do think the confidence is probably pretty shaky. I would be amazed if it wasn't. And yeah, it is the Mo Bamba in 2018, that was like an organizational failure, and that being such a miss of a pick. And Jett Howard at 11 seems like a big failure, for this front office. It was a big swing, and it looks like a massive miss.
Yeah, that's how it feels. But he's going to have maybe another opportunity to prove that wrong. But also, you talk about trades, Jett Howard's probably one of the guys at the top of the list that other teams might be interested in, just because still unproven.
Yeah, I don't know.
Still young, cheap. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. All right. Well, that concludes our forward grades. So next episode is going to be the big grades. But now, for really the moment that a lot of you have been waiting for, we are going to name the winner of this Jalen Suggs autograph rookie card. And the winner is, drum roll please, it is Christopher Jansen. So big shout out to Christopher Jansen. Thank you so much for the rating there. And this card is going to be going out to you. So we'll get in touch with you, get your shipping address, and go ahead and get that shipped out there. So you are the winner of that. Again, yeah, next episode is going to be our big grades. After that will be the guards. After that will be essentially Jamal Mosley and Jeff Weltman, kind of like the team personnel part of that. And then after that, like, we're really into draft season, Kev. So if you are looking for off-season Orlando Magic content, we are going to continue to bring that. So stay tuned into our show every Thursday, every Monday. Continue to have episodes there. And I believe that's it, Kev. Do you have anything else before we sign off here?
I don't think so.
All right, we're going to wrap this one up then. For Kevin Tucker, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to The Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!